Hey guys, what's up? In today's video, I'm going to talk about all the things that I hate about my R6. I've always wanted this bike. Oh my gosh, it's always been a dream bike, but since I've owned it, I've found some things that really are really annoying with this bike. So let's get right into the video. Alright guys, the very first con about the Yamaha R6 is a really interesting one, and I think not a lot of people actually know about this. With these 2006, the newest generation at the time when they switched over from, in my opinion, the pretty ugly generation of R6 to this beautiful one with the sharp lines, aggressive riding, meant for track. When they advertised this bike, they claimed that it had the highest revving engine at the time. They were saying this bike was supposed to rev all the way, have a red line at 17,500, which is absolutely ridiculous. That is insane. The average car red line is probably like 6,500 RPM, and this was supposed to have over 10,000 more revs to go than your normal car. That's insane. So Yamaha advertised this right before this bike was released, and a lot of people had pre-orders in on this bike because they were so excited at the time. They were like, oh my god, Yamaha just unveiled this amazing track purpose built Yamaha R6 that's going to be amazing on the track and just have incredible performance in the 600cc lineup. But what they come to find out is when testers were messing with this engine and had it on the dyno and everything, they saw this bike only rev to I think around like 16,000. So Yamaha actually gave false advertisement on this bike, and they had to purposely offer all the people who pre-ordered this bike an ability to get their money back. So that was really interesting. I don't know if those people ever did take Yamaha up on that offer and actually, not accept the bike, but it's crazy that that false advertisement led to Yamaha having to offer, kind of like a buyback, essentially, just for giving that false advertisement over the red line. So that's definitely a con. It kind of sucks to, see that red line at 17.5 and know that your engine really isn't doing that. I wish it would, but it still sounds awesome. But that's definitely the first con, and I think a pretty interesting one. Not a lot of people know about this 06, 07 year of Yamaha R6. The second big negative thing about the Yamaha R6 is definitely got to be with low-end torque. When I had my old Honda CBR 250 and even the WR 250, I swear going 30 just cruising has about the same torque as this bike does. When I'm riding normally, no one rides, constantly at 10 or 12,000 RPM where this power band is. This bike has like zero torque, honestly. So riding around city, you've got to make sure you hit that downshift, even downshift or two, to get into the power band to be able to overtake cars and stuff like that. Because I think this bike on the dyno, they say peak torque numbers are around, I think, the high 40 foot-pounds of torque. And so when you're riding normally at like 4,000 or 5,000 RPM, just cruising, this bike is literally probably making like 15 or 20 pound-feet of torque, which is horrible. That's like 300cc type class bikes. So going from, my 250 to this, you expect to have a lot more torque, but when you come to find out is really the torque's the same until you get to those higher RPMs. When I say higher, I mean screaming RPMs. This bike's just absolutely screaming. So you gotta wait all the way till then to start seeing those performance numbers go up. So with your typical riding, the R6 honestly is not a really good street bike in that aspect. You don't have that torque like something like an FZ07, an FZ09, or a 1000 that has all that torque ready even at the low RPMs. The R6 definitely suffers with that. Alright guys, and the third thing that, since I've been having this bike and riding it around a lot, doing a lot of city riding, tight maneuvers, tough stuff like that, I found out that this bike is really tough to do tight U-turns on. When I had my WR 250 and even, oh wow, two cogs, even the CBR 250, even the CBR 250, those things could do U-turns with ease. I don't know why, I could just turn those bikes around in a really small area. But even like down a street, sometimes I have difficulty doing a U-turn on this bike. I don't know if it's the seating position, you're so high up, the clip-ons are really low and pretty narrow, it doesn't give you a lot of leverage to make those tight U-turns. This bike really sucks at them. And as a beginner, if you are a beginner, you honestly might even crash just because it's kind of awkward doing really tight U-turns on a Yamaha R6. The fourth big negative about the Yamaha R6, and in particular mine since it's yellow, is the fact that it's definitely a cop magnet. I mean, oh my gosh, every time I pass a cop, especially on campus, all the campus police, I swear like they hate me or something. They look at me like I'm the devil. They think I'm just that hooligan kid, which I'm really not. I ride this bike pretty responsibly. But when you ride something like this, all cops basically hate you. You get that stereotype. You know, you have riders out there that ride crazy on these things, so these cops always think whoever's riding these or one of those guys is gonna run or whatever. So definitely anytime I see a cop, I can just look right in their windshields, and guess what? They're always just staring right at me, waiting for me to do one wrong thing so they have an excuse to pull me over and give me a ticket. And the fifth thing that like literally just happened to remind me of what makes this bike kind of suck for city riding is I honestly kind of hate the suspension on this bike. I know that it's purpose-built, it's meant for the track, that's why it's like that. It's meant to just be able to go into corners at triple-digit speeds and hold a really good line. But with city driving, I swear the suspension is so firm and just sporty that it gets really annoying. You feel you're just bouncing around all the time, and especially with these roads around here, there's so many cracks and bumps and imperfections that make this bike, you know, kind of scary to ride, honestly, because it's just bouncing around all the time. And when I had my WR and my CBR, the suspension was more set up for specifically street use, while this thing is literally meant for basically track use. And so, God, this bike, if you ride one and ride it on the street, especially in a bumpy area, you're going to see what I'm talking about. It hates bumps. Like, every time I see a bump, I'm just like, oh, God, I do not want to hit that. What the heck? What in the... Oh, my God. That was bad. But yeah, guys, with that, those are the 5 things that I've come to hate about this bike so far. With riding it, for the time being I think I have about 3,000 miles on this bike, somewhere around there. And so we'll see, you know, how much longer I have this bike. I really like it so far. Just those few things that I noted are some things that I hate. And I plan on making a video about the things that I love about this bike. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like button, and look out for future videos. Alright guys, I'll catch you on the next one.